Hello YouTube artist, I'm Kelly Hernig and welcome to In the Studio. Today I'm going to revisit the Creative Abstract Watercolor book by Kate Rebecca Leach. And the reason for that is while I was out walking today, I found this set of leaves. Now I love it because the stem here is on the side straight up and down, but then it kind of fans out like that. And then I'm going to add another little one to the bottom there just so that it's 5 leaves. I have been missing doing the abstract watercolor book. I have shared, I think, 7 videos about that. So if you want to see anything about the abstract watercolor book, just search for abstract on my channel and you will find a plethora of videos. But for today, I want to concentrate on the leaves because I really love that specimen that I picked up. And I think that it's going to make a really beautiful painting. I'm actually painting outside my sketchbook because I actually want to frame this one. I just really like the structure of those leaves, and that's why I picked it up. I think finding something that inspires you every day is really an exciting way to paint because you just never know what's going to show up. And going back and deep diving into the abstract watercolors and the marks and the layers, I think it's going to be really exciting. And I've been missing it. I've been missing those marks and getting creative and thinking about the layers of what's next. So let me turn you around and we'll get started. I wanted to talk about my supplies before we get started because I am trying a new paper. This is Fabriano Hot Press. It is 25% cotton. The Studio Watercolor by Fabriano is my favorite watercolor in cold press, but I had bought a couple hot press pads when Dick Blick had them on sale. So I wanted to give them a try and see if I can work my splashes with them, see how easy it is to manipulate this very smooth paper. I'm excited to try this. I am also using deep light watercolors, and what I have here is reed buff, I have bent grass, meadow green, forest pigeon, and partridge. Now I am an ambassador for deep light, so I will have a 15% coupon code down below in the video description box. You can use it on their brushes, on their bags, on their watercolors, and you can use that every time you order from Deep Light, so keep it handy. I'm also using, this is part of a vanity set. I will list that in the video description box too. This is the smaller one. And for my brush, I'm just using the Princeton Aqua Elite, the long round, the number 8, because of the great point there. I am going to be able to do most of it with that brush. I'm going to pull you closer so you can really see what I'm doing. When I am working on leaves, I like to separate them. So I will draw a stem line in the middle because I go up one side and then I turn the corner and go down the other side. I like to work my leaves that way. I find that I get the best texture with that. Instead of dotting like blue everywhere, I like to make it so that it's a smooth transition and they mingle while it's wet. So they start to like merge and kind of go into one another, and that's what I really like about watercolor. I'm going to start with the baby leaf here. And you'll notice that I flatten my brush sometimes. That's because I want extra water to get on it. Then I'm going to go into the bent grass. When using handmade watercolors, they want you to wet it first. So just spritz a little water on them. Don't drown them. It's not that kind of wetting. But what it does is it reactivates them and gives you a little more time to play, which I really like. I'm going to add a little bit of this blue. I love this forest pigeon. It's one of my favorite blues from Deep Light. You don't see blue a lot on leaves. However, I love the way that the blue adds to this. I'm going to splash. I don't know if this is going to run all over the place or what's going to happen with the water. So this will be an interesting process to see what happens. This is meadow green. It's one of my favorite greens because I like the oliveness of it and that it's not a pretty green. It's not like a bright spring green, but it gives you definitely beautiful values. And you can see it's splashing all the way out there. I'm gonna have to watch that. So what I'm finding already is it's drying a little quicker on this hot press paper, and maybe that's because it doesn't have the toothiness of the paper to kind of go into. It's kind of sitting on the surface. Okay, I'm going to mix a little bit of the blue here and a little bit of this reed buff just to try to get a lighter blue. Oh yeah, that's like a gray. That's pretty. You can see I'm just taking my time. I don't want to rush this step because this is where you get the beautiful layers. You know, the mingling of the colors. It really sets up the painting, I think, beautifully. I add a little dark as it goes down to the stem here. I always like to have dark going into my stem. Okay, that looks really kind of nice. Let me bring this closer. So you can see how that's looking beautiful, and you can see how they're kind of running into each other and puddling. I like that a lot. Okay, while that is wet, I'm going to touch a little bit of that green again and pull out the stem. When I'm pulling the stem, I like it to be one of the bottom colors down there. Now I'm thinking for the leaves as they go this way, and this very bottom one down here, I want to make sure that this one down here has a lot of the blues and the grays because I really like that. When I am connecting leaf to leaf, I like to kind of bring this color over and maybe this color over. That way they have a connective point. I am going to try to keep this one lighter. So on my leaves here, this is on top of this, which is on top of this. So I want to make sure that this is the lightest, and then I go a little heavier and get a little darker. And you can see even by the colors here that they have the brown kind of goes here, then the green goes here, then the brownish edges lead to the brown there. And I kind of like that. I like following that as a principle for my colors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the rest of the leaves and fast forward with a little bit of music so that you can see me do it, but you don't need to hear me talk about the colors because I'm only using 5 colors, and you can definitely see the differences here. You can see that this is the reed buff and that the lighter green is the bent grass, the darker green is the meadow green, and then we've got the blue, which is the forest pigeon. Right now I'm not touching the partridge because I want to save that for later for the added layers. Enjoy watching these leaves come to life. And remember, I'm going to try to go from one leaf to the next and letting them blend into one another. I always start at the bottom and work my way up. Okay, this is my first layer and this has to dry. And because it is hot press paper and it's 90 pound, I usually work with 140 pound. It's buckling just a little bit. And I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I turn it sideways. You can see the buckling in the back. So I need to let this dry naturally instead of blow drying it because I want the paper super dry for the next layer. Now in Rebecca's book, the Abstract Watercolor book, her first layer is always a wash like this. You just add color. The second step is about adding layers. So it is adding depth to it now. And then the third step is adding the abstract mark and making sure that they look cohesive together. So I'm going to let this dry completely and then I will be back for step 2. This is completely dry and you can see that the buckling, it's still there, but it's much flatter. So I think I'll be able to work with this. What I'm gonna do once this is dry is I'm going to put some books on top of it to make sure it flattens, and I should have no problem with that. Usually that works pretty good with my papers. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna look for where I can deepen, where I can start adding marks, that kind of thing. And for me, I know the marks that I like. I like circles, I like lines, I like to separate. So this leaf is on top of this leaf, which is on top of this leaf. So I've got a lot of beautiful darks here. I've got blue darks here. I've got green darks here. And then I've got a lot of neutrals laying on top. So I should be able to play with that quite nicely. This leaf over here, I really like how tall and just it stands out by itself, just like this one does. And I'm going to play with a little bit of lines with those. But first, what I want to do is get these 3 separated so that I understand what I'm doing. I'm going to go in first with just some darks. So it looks like I need some darks in here. Let me see. I think I'm going to pull you closer for this so that you can really see what I'm doing. When I'm adding marks too, I want to think of thin and thick. I don't want it to look heavy, or I don't want it to look like a big mass. What I really want it to look like is like it happened naturally. So what I'm looking for, like in here, I love the green here, how it kind of comes down here. So let's see if we can connect that, because I've got this little blue section here. And I tend to like to use the same colors that are there already. And I'm looking for the way the design kind of goes down. You can see this comes down. See what that did? It just adds a nice little darkness there. I like that a lot. Defines it, but it doesn't stand out as not natural. Now I've got this part of the leaf goes under here, and I want to make sure that I connect the same darkness. So that connects really beautifully there. I'm going to work on this blue one next. Now I've got a little blue plus the reed buff here. So I'm going to make a little bitty puddle of that because I like that that's a gray tone. I've got kind of a natural mark there. I'm going to let that stay. But what I'm going to do here is let it go more into the blues. I'm going to actually splash this one here. Okay, deepen the one under it. That looks nice. I want to deepen a little bit of this one over here, and I'm going to use the bent grass for that. Again, I'm just looking for those natural spaces that I can add some color. Add a layer of darkness. Let's see if we can connect these two. That's kind of nice. Okay, I have a little bit of the meadow here, meadow green. You see how just those little bitty value changes is making a big difference on the leaf, and that's exactly what I'm going for. Okay, for this little leaf up here, way at the top, I want to do some thick and thin lines here. So I'm going to go into my meadow first. Kind of like that. I'm going to add a little bit of one over here, I think. I like how tall and vertical this leaf feels. I really like this gray section here, so that was the blue plus the reed buff. And I like that little bit there of the bent grass. Okay, for this one here, for where this part of the leaf comes down, I really like that reed buff there, and I'm going to add some circles. Now I like to add circles to my leaves. It's not for everyone, but I like the way that it looks, and I'm using the same exact color, but I'm trying to come in a little bit stronger, so that they're there, but you don't really notice them. That's kind of nice. Let me show you that. So see that they're there? I am going to splash that too, just to make them go away just a little bit. Because I put them in one spot, I like to put them in a couple spots so that they kind of reiterate themselves, and I like this spot here. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm evaluating these 3 leaves here. Do I have enough separation? Do I have a separation between that and that? Yes. Do I have a separation between that and that? I do, but not a very good one. So you can see that I've got a little bit of darkness here, but I don't have separation here or back here. So what I need to do is either pick the top or the bottom to exaggerate. And I think here I'm going to take the blue and the gray, because I've been liking that blue and gray, or that blue and reed together. So let's see what we can do here. Now I'm going to deepen this green here. That was the meadow. Okay, we've got this baby one down here. I don't really know what to do with him. So I'm going to add a little bit of circles, because I've got an area here which I think will look nice with some circles. Okay, so you can see that it's really just taken shape. So what I need to do now is, with a white Uniball Signo pen, I'm going to add white marks. Now this has to dry. I'm just going to give it a quick blow dry, and then I'm going to do this again and fast forward, because it's already a really long video and you don't need to sit here watching every little mark. But I will bring you up close so you can see some of the marks. For this, whenever I'm using the Signo pen, I've always got a spare piece of paper so that I can test it, make sure that it's coming out white. And this is how my abstract leaves turned out. I'm really pleased with them. I like the idea of these being straight up and down. I love those really dark lines. I like that this one that I kind of continued the lines and pulled it down this way. So for me, those kind of framed those 3 leaves by having the lines there kind of connect with that. I like the circles that you don't notice them, but they're there. And I did that specifically with, remember, the same color over the same color, just a little darker. I outlined the inner part of the circle, not the outer part of the circle, because I didn't want the big shape to show. I wanted the inners to show. So let me show you that little area there. That's what I mean. So you can see the circle shapes on the outside, but yet I left the white to the inside. I really like the way that the darkness defined that. Do you see what having that nice dark shadow here kind of uplifted that leaf on the top? And then I've got this nice dark down here too that also lifted that leaf upward. So I'm really pleased with this. I had a lot of fun, and I have missed doing these little abstract drawings. I am definitely going to be grabbing more leaves from my yard and playing a little bit more, because I was a little tentative. I was really in my head too much, and I need to go back and revisit my big book of the abstract journals so that I can flip through and look at some of the patterns again, because I found that I was doing the same thing over and over. But for this piece, because of this massive area of leaves, it kind of worked really nice for that. If you enjoyed seeing these leaves become a little bit of abstracted art, please leave me a comment. If you haven't subscribed, please click the button. And as always, thanks so much for watching.